Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head back to a brewery that I introduced you to for the first time a couple of weeks back, and I really enjoyed the last beer that I had from them. So for this one we're going to head back to Skellefteå, which is quite a bit further north than I am here in Skåne in the south. These guys are from Nörbotten county and they're based in a little place called Kurjoviken from what I remember. So we're going to have a look at my second beer from Fermenteriet. This one is the Black IPA and it comes in at 6.3%. This beer was released as part of the local and small assortment beers on the 3rd of June 2019. And I think that's a really good thing that Systembolaget have done. They've given a little bit of easier access to the market, if you like, for the local Swedish breweries, because I know that it was only every 3 months or so originally that these little Swedish breweries could release their beers. So Systembolaget have made it a hell of a lot easier for breweries to get their beers out there, so kudos to them for that, because they do get criticism in other areas, I know. But really looking forward to trying this one. I enjoyed the double IPA that I had from these guys before, and hopefully this is another beer that follows in the same light. The Black IPA is a style of beer that you don't see too many of these days, but it's a style that I always used to enjoy, and that's why I bought this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Fermenteriet before. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Fermenteriet then. So as I've mentioned to you before, Fermenteriet are based in Kurjoviken in Skellefteå in Nörbotten county. You can find this little place around halfway between Luleå and Umeå, two of the better known cities in the north of Sweden, and they are occupying a building that was previously part of Karlholmens malt brewery. So the company was founded back in 2018 and it's got 5 co-owners. This is Martin Åkerström, Stefan Wallin, Urban Lindegren, Mikael Jakobsen, and also Victor Jakobsen as well. Out of the group though, it's only Victor who had an experience in brewing, and when they started up he had been home brewing previously for around 4 years, but he started off as the only full-time worker, and he quickly had to learn, basically had to train the others so that they could also take part in the brewing and take a little bit of the workload off him. But the brewery started off with a very small 400 litre pilot brewery, if you like, but at the moment they're aiming for an annual output of around 50,000 litres. They are working to expand a little bit, and they do seem to be fairly prolific in putting different styles of beer out there, and from what I gather this is their second or maybe third release through the local and small assortment releases in Systembolaget. But I think they've got a fairly good future. The quality of the beer that I've had from them so far has been pretty good, and I hope that this is another one that follows in the same light. And like I say, the Black IPA is a style that you don't come across all that often anymore. In my opinion, the Black IPA is one that's better when it's an Imperial IPA, because a lot of breweries, when they do this, they just put black malt in the base and hope that the hops kind of balance it out, rather than putting a little bit of caramelly sweetness or something in it. So I've always preferred the Black IPA when it's in its imperial form rather than the regular form, but hopefully this is another one that proves me wrong with that kind of insight that I've just given. But yeah, if you get the chance to try some of these beers, I do recommend that you have a look at them, and it's always cool to try different beers from different parts of Sweden, as I've said previously. But yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and you can check out their Untappd page as well for a listing of all the different beers that they do. But there wasn't too much information available on this brewery since they are very new, that I would recommend you check out beernews.se if you want to learn a little bit more too. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as you can see, kind of an interesting, almost metal Viking kind of combination of artwork there. There's a woman with an old woman with very comfortable hair and a baseball bat, or very colourful hair rather, not very comfortable hair, and a raven, the Viking symbol of death. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, maybe a little bit of mischief, but it says on the back here, the Black IPA, it's brewed with peeled corn with that's heavily roasted, and it contributes a big colour and a very big roastiness to the beer as well. And this one is unfiltered and unpasteurized, and the artist for this particular beer is Elbewalen. So yeah, or Elbewalen, I guess, if you give them the proper Swedish pronunciation. There you can see the Fermenteriet badge on the side. It would be cool actually if they put that on the bottle cap as well. It's just a plain black bottle cap that's on this one, but that would go nicely with this. But you know, really nicely presented beer, this one. Kind of similar and unusual. You know, if I think about the other one that I had, the double IPA, it also had quite a strange artwork on it as well. But 6.3% ABV. So let's get it out and into the glass and see how we get on. So yeah, nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll stick it out and into the glass. I really do need to get a replacement goblet glass, since my Amar Brucus one met its unfortunate end in the kitchen sink. I was gutted about that. But yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured pretty much as you would expect. It's a nice, I would say, dark ebony rosewood colour, or Coca-Cola type colour. This one, you can see there's a solid finger and a bit of a frothy, I would say, light beige head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, nothing in this beer out with the realms of possibility when you consider that it is a black IPA. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see it is to some degree quite hazy, and if I hold it up to the light, I will tell you that this is a little bit more of a hazy black IPA. It's got a little bit of transparency to it around the edge of the beer, but you know, overall it does look, you know, it looks pretty nice and pretty much what you would expect. But yeah, a nice looking at black IPA, this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Yeah, that's a really nice smelling black IPA. It's got a really smooth, the malt base in this one comes across as very smooth. I mean, you've got those roasty, toasty black malts like you'd expect, but there's a lot of a kind of brown bready quality on top of that. In some ways, it really reminds me of these little rolls that I used to eat when I lived in Heidelberg in Germany. You could get these brown bread rolls, and they almost had this just very well-fired bread crust kind of cover on them, if you like. The very edge of these brown bread rolls was very well fired, and the aroma out of this beer reminds me of that quite a bit. So yeah, I don't know if it's right to say there's a bit of chocolate in this one, but it does have an element of sweetness to it. There's maybe a little bit of a very, very toasty brown sugar note in this beer, which is quite nice. I like how that goes together. Actually, there's a whole host of different things coming out of this one. It really does have a lovely aroma, that, and I've got a feeling that this beer might have that little bit of sweetness to it that I think some black IPAs can miss out on, to be honest. So I'm excited to have a taste of this one. But yeah, to give the aroma a bit of a summary here, you've got that roasty black malt backbone, you've got some nice smoother bready notes on top of that. It's got a little bit of a well-fired bread crust quality to it, some really toasty brown sugars in there, a little bit of a biscuity sweetness as well, and maybe even a little tiny hint of a woody quality to this beer as well. I don't pick up any kind of nutty notes to it, to be honest. But yeah, a really nice bready note to the beer as well. The other style, I guess, that you have to mention when it comes to black IPAs is the Cascadian Dark. And you don't see too many of those either. There's not really much of a clear definition between the Cascadian Dark and the black IPA, other than the Cascadian Dark uses simply Cascade hops, whereas the black IPA will use others. This one, to me, I think, I've got a feeling there might be a good bit of Cascade in here, but there could be something like Williamette in this as well, because it does have some of these really nice sort of dark berryish fruits. So on the hoppy side of things, I would say there's a little bit of earthiness in there, definitely a little touch of floral quality as well, and some lighter grassiness. But the fruity side of this beer is definitely leaning towards the red side of things. I wouldn't be surprised if there is Cascade in there, like I said. But on the fruity side of things, a little bit of a kind of juicy, figgy quality, maybe some kind of blackberry, blackcurrant notes in there as well, which to me suggests a little bit of Williamette. The earthiness, the way the earthiness comes out in this beer as well, does suggest Williamette. So if I was betting hops on this, and I always like to play this guess the hop game when I don't know what hops are in beer, I would say that there's a little bit of Williamette and maybe a little bit of Cascade in this one. One thing I will say too is that when you sugar this beer up a little bit more, you start to get more of the kind of brown sugary caramelly notes in this one. So I've got a very good feeling about this black IPA in fact. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think this one is going to be nice. I'd actually say there's maybe a little bit of a butterscotchy Werther's original aroma to this beer as well, the more and more that I smell of it. But let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the black IPA from Fermenteriet in Skellefteå up in Nörbotten county, halfway between Luleå and Umeå in the north of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this beer. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's pretty nice, I have to say. First impression of this beer is that it really is, you know, quite smooth actually. I like how that kind of comes together. This is one of these black IPAs that comes in and it appears very smooth to begin with, but the further and further you go into the aftertaste, the more you can feel the roasted black malts just pushing their way out a little bit. This is definitely one of the black IPAs that just dries up your palate a little bit. But I will say, it does have that little bit of sweetness in there that balances it out quite nicely, and that's what I liked about their double IPA as well. So I'm quite, this is definitely a brewery I'm going to keep an eye on, because I think they've got very similar ideas to what I like in beer when it comes to actually brewing their stuff too. They do seem to appreciate the importance of a sweet malty backbone, so I will be trying more beers from these guys. So yeah, this is one of those beers that really does dry out in the middle of the palate, but you get a nice little bit of sweetness to it in the beginning too. So let's just try and break this flavour down a little bit even more. So straight away with this beer, when you have the impact of it, you can feel that it's got a really nice smooth, but still quite roasted bread crust, bready quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. As the middle of your palate dries out a little bit, you start to get these roasty, toasty black malts dominating the flavour of this beer. But in the very centre of your tongue, there's a sort of very toasty, sweet caramel in there. And as you move out from the centre, it becomes a little bit more biscuity and things. And then you start to really... it sort of gradually makes that transition from sweet caramel to biscuit to roasty black malts. I think there's a little touch of a woody element to this beer as well. If you just go to the sides of your palate and move in a little bit, there is definitely a little hint of a woody quality to this beer also. Yeah. And you'll notice that particularly in the start of the flavour as well. When you just take a gulp of this beer, you will notice that slightly sweeter part of this beer's malt base in the beginning of the flavour, and it works really nicely for it. So this for me is a very well balanced black IPA. As I said earlier, this is a style that I've found some breweries can really push it towards the roasty, toasty side of things, and in fairness, this one does lean towards that in the aftertaste, but it's got enough sweetness in the beginning that it feels very balanced. Some of them can just go for a straight roastiness rather than even having any sweetness in it, and I think that's a mistake if you brew this style like that. You do need a little bit of biscuit or caramel or carapils or something like that in this beer style, but they've done a good job of this one. So Fermenteriet get another thumbs up from me. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again, and it's quite a hard style to get right, so that says good things for them going further forward. So have a go at this beer for yourself and see what you think. If you like the black IPA, I think you will quite enjoy this one, just on the basis of the malt base. We've not even really talked about the hops yet, to be honest with you. In the back corners of the palate, nice little bit of roasted earthiness in there. It's quite a dark earthiness that you get out of this beer. That does spread further forward along the sides of the tongue. As you get forward towards the front corners of the tongue, you get a little bit more of a floral aromaticity to it. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy in there, but mainly it's still that roasty black malt quality that's dominating the flavour of this beer. Yeah, we'll get a little bit more of that into the glass there and see if the sediment does anything to it. But yeah, as I always say, you get that little oily bubble behind the front curve of your palate, and that's where the fruity, juicy esters start to come out of the beer. So for me with this one, this is kind of interesting. This is definitely leaning towards the sort of berryish, red, fruity side of things. There might even be a little touch of orange in there or something like that. Yeah, there is something in there that's given a little bit of an impression of an orangey flavour, but I don't think is too prominent. I mean, the big orangey hops, you've got Amarillo, you've got Azacca, you've got Mosaic, Mandarina Bavaria, Pacifica from New Zealand. Those are your big 5 orangey hops. I don't think any of those are in there, to be honest. I think this one is Cascade and potentially Williamette, one of the maybe both of those two. So the darker earthiness in there could be something like Summit or something like that in here too. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer, it's mainly the fruits are coming out on the very edge of the tongue. As I always say, you usually get the fruity side of the beer with that oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue. But for me, that oily bubble isn't too prominent in this. It leans a little bit. The oily bubble is even further forward on the tongue than it normally is when you consider like a New England IPA or whatever. But the fruity side of this beer, there's a little bit of a kind of candied red fruity ester. It's almost like a bit of a candied strawberry. You've got a little bit of those kind of heart-shaped sweets that you get in the Haribo Star Mix. The candied strawberry flavour really reminds me of those. But there's definitely some blackberry, blackcurrant flavours in there. I don't think it's quite blueberry. It's not juicy enough to be a blueberry, but it really leans towards those blackberry, blackcurrants and kind of candied strawberry notes. Maybe a little touch of a figgy flavour as well. So if I was betting on hops, I would say Cascade and a little bit of Williamette. But again, this is one of these beers where it's all about how the flavours kind of blend together, and the malt base with the bit of sweetness that it has comes across very, very nicely, in my opinion. So, you know, if you like this style of beer, have a taste of this one and just see what you think. It definitely leans more towards the roasty, toasty end of the spectrum, particularly in the aftertaste, but it's got a good little bit of sweetness from the malt base and also some really nice, juicy, fruity characters as well. Whether it's right to term this one as a black IPA or a Cascadian Dark, I'm not quite sure, but I think it's one of the more balanced ones that I've come across, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. And again, I'll be keeping an eye out for more Fermenteriet releases in the local and small assortments that we get through Systembolaget here. So yeah, have a go at this beer and just see what you think. But it gets a thumbs up from me. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this beer. Sorry, we need to talk about the mouthfeel actually. So for me, this one, it's quite a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation has a little bit of crispness to it, and I do find that in quite a few IPAs actually. The carbonation does have a good little bit of activity to it. Overall, I would say that the mouthfeel is quite dry and roasted in this, but it does have a little bit of oiliness to it as well. So a good little bit of hoppy bitterness, and I would say overall that the IBUs in this might be somewhere in the region of 70, and that's both from the malt base and from the hoppy side of the beer. Malt base is a good balance between the roastiness and the sweetness and the smoothness as well, so there's 3 things going on in this malt base. Nice little bit of a juicy fruity quality as well, but overall it's just a very, very well balanced black IPA, this one, and I think at this point, rather than the point before, that's a good point to sign off on this beer. If you like a nice well balanced black IPA, then this one certainly isn't going to disappoint you by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This one is the black IPA, released on the 3rd of June 2019 through Systembolaget here in Sweden from Fermenteriet in Skellefteå in Nörbotten in Sweden. A really nice beer, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. A style that I really enjoy, and this brewery haven't disappointed me with this one. So yeah, make of that what you will. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. As always, let me know your own thoughts in the comment section below on this beer. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Fermenteriet as well. Do keep your brewery recommendations coming in, because there's 400 breweries here in Sweden now, so it's difficult to keep up to date with all the new ones that I might not have heard of. Keep those coming in, and let me know some other black IPAs from other Swedish breweries that you'd like to see me review as well. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This is the black IPA from Fermenteriet in Skellefteå, Nörbotten in Sweden. Until the next time, slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slange at school, check out my social media, and have a go at some of these Fermenteriet beers. Cheers.